Hi everyone, 31st May. I started the week by attending an introduction to the Race Matters development program. So this is a program for underrepresented groups to provide them with training and development opportunities. It was an interesting start to the week. Seems to be quite a commitment, so I'm going to email them to ask whether I can speak to a member of the previous cohort. Feels like a fairly substantial, valuable course, so I'm going to apply for that and I'll let you know how it goes. Shortly after, I had a catch up with a member of another team. Now, their delivery manager is away, so they wanted my help on a monthly report. And since I not only enjoy doing metrics, but I was actually part of a group that developed the look and content of the delivery metrics report, I'm helping out. The deck is due at the end of the week, so I'm helping the product manager to complete the delivery deck. The deck is normally compiled by several members of the team, with a large portion of that done by the delivery person, and some product areas to be completed by product. There's a large number of delivery metrics to be included, such as cycle time, work in progress, slow cards, etc., etc. I've done various videos on this that you can have a look at on my channel. We also include health metrics from the health survey, so there's a number of things that are included in the report that are quite interesting and form a nice picture and overview of the team, and essentially provide the leads as a potential avenue of things to explore further, should things be highlighted perhaps in red, or some metrics which come up as changing, very changeable from one month to the other, is things that can be questioned. The area that I work in normally has two delivery managers, and my counterpart has left, so I stepped in to give them a retro, the other team a retro. I don't get to see that side of the team too often, so it was interesting to run through that and have a retro with them. I actually used the same theme as I did last week with my own team, which is the Eurovision theme. A theme that I created based on a suggestion by one of the members of my team. And as I said last time, I've never watched Eurovision, so it was always going to be a bit of a gamble. It went pretty well and produced some really interesting results. One of the things that was highlighted was that we've got a lot of tech debt to work through, and that's something we need to incorporate into planning. This has been on our minds, but it's useful again to highlight, and it's also useful that the devs on the team were actually thinking about that as well. It's quite easy to just run through task after task after task, completing sections of work and not catch up on the tech debt, which of course, once it gets to a certain point, you're actually affecting delivery at that point. We also decided about meeting times, which we've ended up changing around as a result. We also went through things that were going well and things that we wanted to continue to do. And these are things like the two teams working together. We've had a lot more collaboration and checking each other's PRs, which has helped create that atmosphere of support that there definitely is between the two teams and within this area. People are generally quite happy about things, which is really good and makes it a really nice place to work. Having said that, there was an article out recently about the company I work for which describes horrible working conditions. Fortunately, not a reflection of the area that I'm working in. Last time I mentioned I was doing some work on the landing page for the site, so we've continued to talk about that, and since then the scope of what we've been designing has shifted down a little bit, so effectively it's going to become a lift and shift operation rather than sort of an upgrade, with the upgrade taking place in the next iteration. The main thing for us, like I said, is lift and shift the current landing page to the new platform, so that simplifies a lot of things and reduces the need for things like user researchers and various other bits and pieces, because essentially it's content migration. As I mentioned last time, there's a lot of work going on currently on decommissioning a very large piece of software that's entangled in a lot of areas. I met with the developers across both teams to get their thoughts on decommissioning this large piece of software that we've got. We went through a list of items that I think it's entangled in, and they updated that list. It was a productive session just to make sure that basically we've covered all our bases. What we don't want is come 2 months before the deadline to retire the software and realise that we've got a ton of additional areas to decommission. Later in the week, I met with the product manager of my team to go through the delivery deck this time. So the product manager looks at certain parts of the deck, like I mentioned, the product pages. And because our product manager is new, I helped him out with what he needs to do and what needs to go in the various sections. His first time around, so obviously it can be a bit daunting when you are entering data to this deck, which is going to obviously be passed over to the delivery leads and the product leads. So I was quite happy to help him out with what he needed to add to his side of things. Having completed my delivery deck, I then met with another delivery manager and gave them advice on their delivery deck. As mentioned, this is one of the areas I'm responsible for, so I'm often called out to review other people's decks and meet with other people to look at their decks. So again, something I enjoy. I enjoy looking at metrics, and like I said, I've got some videos out on that if you're interested, check them out. Now, I'm actually moving to a different team. I put in the request to move because I've been on this team for around a year and 3 months, and I felt like I've done quite a lot with this team. I understand everything on the team. I've addressed a lot of challenges that I wanted to address, so I feel like it's just time for me to move on to a different team. I met with the delivery lead earlier this week to have a discussion about this, and we've got a plan in terms of where I'll move to. It'll be a few weeks to arrange, and it should be very exciting though, because I've had this run, like I said, a year and 3 months. It'll be quite interesting to see a new team in a different circumstance. It's almost like changing jobs, actually, and I found in terms of my own personal growth, really, when I've changed jobs or changed environments, that's when I felt my growth being the most rapid. So looking forward to that. Later on, I had a meeting which I've recently added to the calendar. This is a fortnightly check-in. It pulls the entire team together. Remember I said that there were two separate halves. There isn't many sessions where we all get together, so I put this in place to provide an opportunity every fortnight to have a check-in on priorities and just discuss and disseminate information and basically run through any news or even priorities. Partway through the session, the people joining us virtually from the London office had to rush out due to a fire drill, so I continued the session with those still in place, talking about a few things like health metrics and what we do the health survey. It was just a fire drill though, so they got back, but obviously it was too late because by the time they exited the office and did all the check-in procedures and came back in, we were well past the end of the meeting time. And really, I don't like... I mean, in this case, I would have had to extend the meeting for a half an hour or 45 minutes. But I don't even like spending more than a couple of minutes past the end time. Ideally, I'd like to finish exactly on time. Because oftentimes people have booked other meetings. And that could be one option. It could be that they've actually left a 5-minute break and then booked their second meeting because they want a 5-minute decompressed time between one meeting and the other meeting. So if I allow my meeting to overrun, then I'm going into either their decompressed time, or I'm going into the next meeting time. So I like to be fairly sort of punctual on the end time of meetings, and if there's things that are left unsaid, it has to be picked up at another meeting, because obviously there's a need for greater exploration. There's no point trying to ram everything in 5 minutes and then force people to stay when they've got other meetings to go to, or we don't know, they might have had a run of 5 meetings, and actually those 5 minutes are going to be a long time if it's cutting into their decompressed time. So again, it's about being sort of mindful of other people, which again, in this company that I work for, they're very much keen on. And it might not be the case in every company, and well, it certainly isn't the case in every company, but it certainly is in this company. Then later I had another catch up about the landing page again, this time just to confirm the decision on it being a static lift and shift. We also explored what the other questions were, and there's quite a few things we need to look into. Things like stakeholders that we have to manage, expectations from other people about what they want in this new redesign page, which isn't going to be redesigned just yet, lift and shift. And again, the other thing is, as I've previously talked about, when sometimes you make small changes, it can actually have large effects on the wider community that you might not be aware of, unless you spend a lot of time thinking. And that's what we're trying to do with these sort of sessions. You might be thinking, another meeting on moving the landing page. What we're trying to do is just spend a little more time thinking before we make those changes. Otherwise, we'll end up with issues down the line when things have been made more difficult for people as a result of an unforeseen decision or an oversight of some kind. And that was a week for the large part. There are a few meetings that are left out, quite a few meetings that are left out actually, which are mostly routine meetings, nothing special to speak about, just my day-to-day stuff as well as my thinking time. I try to step back and look at the bigger picture. It's too easy to get caught spinning plates. You don't have time to think bigger and think about actually what is really important and what you're trying to do. So I think it's important to do that. Things like it's important before going into the meeting to spend a bit of time thinking about what it is that you want as an outcome and really trying to use that to drive the meeting. Otherwise, it can become, it's quite easy to become quite passive in meetings. Certainly in my role, you can't afford to be passive, and a meeting without any action may as well just have been an email. Alright, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.